Putin just asked North Korea for help, and no, that's not a figure of speech. Ukraine announced over the weekend that Kim Jong-un will send up to 50,000 soldiers to Russia. The army that claimed to be the second strongest in the world, the one that was supposed to take Kyiv in 3 days, is now hiring troops and buying missiles from the poorest and most isolated country on the planet. But he made a mistake in all this. A mistake he won't be able to undo, because Putin isn't paying with money. He's paying with something that, once it leaves his hands, never comes back. Listen to what the president of Ukraine said.
It's the first time they can't fight without reinforcements from North Korea. Now, they're getting ready to deploy another contingent of Koreans on their territory. They've received, just imagine, additional ballistic missiles from North Korea. And everyone in the world needs to understand what this means. And it's not just about the lives of people in Ukraine, not just the threats directly to us. North Korea's ballistic missiles and their other weapons are being improved thanks to collaboration with Russia.
It's the first time the Russians can't fight without reinforcement from North Korea. The first time after 4 years of war. And just look at the difference in 2 years. June of 2024. Putin lands in Pyongyang at dawn, red carpet, honor guard, his portrait hanging on posts all over the city. Kim is waiting on the runway. The two of them ride in a luxury car through the palace gardens. While Putin is at the wheel, Kim sits in the passenger seat laughing. By the way, the car was a gift from Putin. 2 years later, he's buying a used missile from that same guy. And it's not a good missile. I'll show you exactly what this missile does. July 30th of this year. It was still early morning in a village called Raduzhne, near Kryvyi Rih in south-central Ukraine. It's not a military base, it's not a factory, it's nothing like that. It's a place where people live. A ballistic missile lands on top of a house. The house practically disappears. There's not a single wall left standing. Nothing remains except bricks, broken tiles, and furniture scattered across the yard. Inside that house lived a family of 10 people, 3 of whom were children. Look at the desperation of these people. This is in the middle of the night. There's smoke, there's still a fire burning in the background, and it's the neighbors who arrive first, digging with their hands, because they know who's underneath there. Pay attention to this recording, because it's from the camera of a police officer who arrived within the first few minutes. Someone shouts for them to hurry, that there's a child there. The next day, a neighbor recounted what he heard. And this is where the story starts to get strange. According to him, it wasn't an explosion. There were 2, one right after the other. That night, Russia fired 74 missiles and more than 280 drones at Ukraine. But 2 of those missiles were different. According to the Ukrainian government's sanctions commissioner, they were North Korean missiles, the first used against Ukraine in almost a year. The first of them was the one that hit the family in Raduzhne. And the second one, the second one fell in an empty field 3.5 kilometers from there. The Ukrainians went to look and found the crater in the middle of nowhere. Within a 5-kilometer radius from that point, there was no target at all. No military target, no industrial target, nothing at all. And think for a second about what that means. A ballistic missile, a weapon that costs millions of dollars, was launched, flew hundreds of kilometers, and missed by 3.5 kilometers. It ended up landing in a pasture. That's the product Putin is buying. He's not buying precision, he's buying quantity. And when you fire weapons in large numbers without precision at an entire country, what you hit are people's homes. This shows the size of the hole Russia has gotten itself into. Look, for decades, Russia was the second largest arms seller on the planet. It armed half the world: India, Egypt, Algeria, Vietnam. It sold fighter jets, tanks, anti-aircraft systems 5 years ago. 1 out of every 5 weapons sold worldwide came from a Russian factory. But today, it's less than 7%. Russian arms exports have dropped 64% in 5 years. Of all the world's top 10 sellers, Russia was the only one that shrank. The country that used to arm half the world now buys ammunition from North Korea. This isn't a partnership between equals, it's a cry for help. Now comes the question that matters. If the product is bad, why does Putin insist? And most importantly, what is Kim Jong-un gaining from this? Before I answer, subscribe to the channel. Because the answer is the part that almost no one is talking about, and it's the reason why I think this was one of the worst decisions Putin has made
in this war.
Let's go back to the beginning of this story. North Korea had never sent a combat force of this size to a foreign war. Never. In almost 80 years of existence, their army trained like this. Shirtless soldiers in the cold breaking stacks of tiles with their hands, smashing glass bottles. A demonstration of strength for state television. It's impressive to watch, but it's completely useless in the war they're fighting today. Because when these men arrived in the Kursk region at the end of 2024, they found something that no one had prepared them for. Drones. Drones over their heads all the time, 24 hours a day, filming every step, guiding every artillery shot. And do you know what they did? According to South Korean intelligence, they tried to shoot down the drones with rifles. Their official report described this with just one word: useless. The result was a massacre. South Korean intelligence reported 300 dead and 2,700 wounded. Ukrainian and Western estimates went even further. They speak of 4,000 casualties out of 12,000 men sent. A third in just a few months. Look at the kind of attack they used to carry out. This is a human wave. It's people crossing open ground on foot, without cover, with a drone filming from above. A tactic from the 1950s against 2025 technology. So, in February last year, they disappeared from the front line for weeks. The reason? They had lost too many people. And here's the point that changes everything. The ones who survived returned home. Analysts estimate that about 3,000 North Korean soldiers who returned from Russia were turned into instructors. They're not fighting anymore, they're teaching. They're inside North Korean barracks, explaining to the rest of the army how to use attack drones, how Russian tactics work, what it's like to be in a war where there's an electronic eye above you all the time. An army that spent decades training in the dark has just completed an intensive course. Paid for with blood, but they did it. And Kim isn't hiding what he gained. He's already appeared on state television inspecting attack drones, reconnaissance drones, suicide drones, things that North Korea didn't know how to make on its own. And it's not just soldiers that he's selling. Entire brigades of North Korean workers are arriving in Russia for assembly lines, garment factories, kitchens, farms. With a promised salary of $6 an hour, Kim is exporting people, soldiers, workers, everything. But the highest price, the one no one can really measure, might be at the bottom of the sea.
The possible torpedoing of a Russian ship to stop the Kremlin handing submarine nuclear reactors.
December of 2024. A Russian cargo ship called Ursa Major is crossing the Mediterranean. Out of nowhere, it slows down. The Spanish call on the radio. The ship responds that everything is fine. 24 hours later, it makes a sharp turn and sends out an urgent distress call, and it sinks. According to a CNN investigation, The hull had a hole measuring 50 by 50 centimeters, and the metal around it was bent inward. Yes, inward. Then there were 3 explosions. 2 crew members died, 14 were rescued by the Spanish, and the Russian captain, already on land, told the investigators what was in the hold. 2 nuclear reactors, the kind used in submarines. The investigation raises the possibility that the cargo was going to North Korea. And look, this is just a hypothesis. It's not a confirmed fact. But there's one thing that's not a hypothesis. As soon as the ship sank, the Russian military arrived in force. They ordered everyone to stay 2 miles away and destroyed the wreckage. Someone didn't want that cargo to reach its destination. And someone didn't want anyone to see what was left. Now comes the part I've wanted to show you from the beginning. Why is this Putin shooting himself in the foot? Pay close attention to the trade Putin made. What he's getting is all disposable. Soldiers, projectile, missile. On the day this war ends, he won't need any of that anymore. The war is over. There's no more need for it. But what he gave in return stays. The knowledge stays. The technology stays. The 3,000 instructors won't unlearn what they've learned. Putin solved today's problem and created one that has no end date. And look, Kim Jong-un knows very well what happens when Russia no longer needs him. He knows because he has already experienced it. September 1990. The Soviet Union was collapsing and Gorbachev decided to make peace with the West. One of the things he did was recognize South Korea, establish diplomatic relations with North Korea's declared enemy. North Korea freaked out. The party's official newspaper accused the Soviets of having sold the honor of a socialist power and the faith of an ally for $2.3 billion. And then the Soviets retaliated all of a sudden. The Soviet Union started demanding that North Korea pay for oil in dollars at market price. And they stopped sending military equipment because South Korea had asked them to. What came next was the collapse. Kim Il-sung died in 1994. And then came the famine. A famine that killed hundreds of thousands of North Koreans throughout the 1990s. An entire country collapsed because the Godfather decided he had better things to do. Kim Jong-un was a child when this happened. He grew up seeing everything. And that's why, this time, he's not taking promises as payment. He's demanding technology, know-how, and training, things that Putin can't take back when he changes his mind. Now, let's be honest. There are people who will disagree with this, and they're partly right. In the short term, the deal pays off for Putin. North Korea delivers something that no wealthy country would deliver. Men willing to die and plenty of ammunition. That helped Russia hold on in Kursk. This is real. But that's where the trap is. Putin solved today's problem by creating a problem that isn't his. He took an army that was frozen in time, isolated, outdated, and gave it the one thing that money can't buy. Real combat experience. Against drones, against electronic warfare, against real air defense. And this army doesn't stay in Ukraine, it goes home. To a border that's 50 kilometers from Seoul, a city of 10 million people. And there's a detail from that 2024 visit that almost nobody mentioned at the time. Putin and Kim didn't just sign a friendship agreement, they signed a mutual defense treaty. It's written right there in Article 3. If either of the two is attacked, the other is required to provide immediate military assistance by all available means. In other words, if North Korea goes to war in Asia, Russia has committed on paper to join in as well. And the most curious thing is that Putin signed this at a bad time. when he desperately needed ammunition. He was paying a short-term bill, and to pay that bill, he tied Russia to the most unpredictable country on the planet. He signed the check, and then he handed the pen to Kim Jong-un. And it's not just South Korea that should be worried. Zelensky summed it up well by saying, the more North Korean weapons end up in Ukraine, the more they fix their own flaws, and then the danger increases for Japan, for South Korea, and for the Philippines.
The more rockets and soldiers, the more they will correct their shortcomings and lack of knowledge. Accordingly, the greater the danger will be. Then for Japan, for the Republic of Korea, for the Philippines, and for other countries in the region.
The truth is that Ukraine has become North Korea's training ground, and those who will face the consequences of this are not in Europe, they're on the other side of the world. And there's something we need to keep an eye on now. Next month, Russia and North Korea have high-level talks scheduled where they will decide exactly how many missiles and how many men. That number will tell us a lot. And there's another sign that, in my opinion, is the most important. If South Korea, which until now has refused to send weapons to Ukraine, changes its mind. The day the South Koreans change, it's because they've reached the same conclusion as the one in this video. We're going to keep following this closely, because this story is far from over. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. See you then!